do last week? We this was our folder here, class 2, I believe, right? So last week we started up a forms project, right? So let's just quickly go through that process again. So this will be class, is this class 3 or 4? 3. Okay, I'm not sure why I had class 3 there before, but okay. So then let's start up a new project. So we're going to go to Visual Studio. I'm going to use 2012. Okay, so then we're going to create a new project, and we'll work in forms applications again today as well. Okay, and so I'm gonna change the directory of where my project's saved. I'm gonna change it to class 3. Let's go to the desktop and then pick. Is it in here? Class 2. Okay, and then in class 3. And we'll select that folder, and we'll call this. So today we're going to learn about ifs. So we might as well call this project ifs. Okay. So let's save that. Okay, and then we should have our form project here again. So just a recap. So we have our form here that we're going to be working with. On the left we have our toolbox. Those are all the tools that we can drag in and utilize in our form. So things like standard Windows components, right? Things like checkboxes, labels, list boxes, combo boxes. So those are like drop-down menus, text boxes, and radio boxes. And we worked with last week we worked with text boxes and buttons and labels, right? So for example, how would let's say I want to put a label on my form so that I can start to see some output, because we're going to be working with decisions today. So we're going to need to output the results of our decision. So we need some place to put it. So how do we put a label on this form? Double click? I don't know. Can you double click? I don't think so. I suppose you can, and then it pops up at the top there. Yeah, but I usually drag it in, like so, and then it goes to the spot that you put it at. Okay. So how would we? Let's say we want to make this bigger. We want to make this a lot bigger. So how might we do that? Right click it, and then do what? Properties. Okay, but we already had the window up here already, right? We could have just clicked on it and looked over here. So then what property do we need to use? Sorry? No, that's different. That's different. What we want to do is we want to change the font. So we'll change it to, let's make it Verdana, and we'll make it 24 points. Okay? So how do we find the label? Or how do we find the name of this label? Text. So again, in the properties window, right? So we go here and we go to text, okay, and we can change it to anything we want, right? And then we can move it over. So we can make our window bigger, right? Because this is the actual form itself is an element, just like the things we've been dragging in. We can make it bigger, right? And the form itself has properties. See, when we click on the form, we can also see that the name of the form is Form 1. And we can see that there are properties all over here, right? That we can. These are properties of the form that we can manipulate. Okay. Okay. What about a button? So how would I? Let's say I want this text to change when I press a button. So how might I do that? How do I get a button on my form first of all? Anyone? Sorry? Yeah. So we drag it in, and we can make it bigger if we want. So how do we? So now I want to control what happens when I click the button. So I want to set the handler of the button click event. So how do I do that? How do I get to the button click event and start writing code for that? Yeah, double click on the button, right? And now we're taken to the CS code of our form. Before we were looking at the design view. Now we're looking at the same thing, but we're just looking at it in another view. We're looking at the CS code. Okay? Okay, so now anything that we put in here, in between these braces, these brackets, will occur when we click on this button. Okay? So let's change the label of the button. We'll change it from text. We'll change it to Go. And then we'll change the font. Let's change the font to 22. Okay? Okay, so we can double click on here to go back to this. So how do let's say I want to change the text of my label when I click on the button. So how do I do that? How do I do that? What was the label? What was the name of the label? Label 1, right? And remember, a label is just a variable like any other variable. So how do we reference variables? How do we reference variables? What's that? Label 1? Yeah, exactly. So we say label 1 because we want to reference label 1. We want to change something about label 1, so we need to reference it. And what about label 1 did we want to change? That was the text property. Remember we changed the text property in the properties window? Well, we can also change it using C# code. Okay? So let's change it to, we need to give it a string, so we need to use the double quotes, right? Whenever we give it, this is called a hard-coded string. Whenever you have a string between two quotes, it's called a hard-coded string. Okay? So we could type changed text. Okay? And now when I run my program by clicking Start, and here we go. Here's our form. And what will happen when I click Go? It's going to change this text. What is it going to change the text to? What's that? Well, because probably what happened is where did you put the text change? Did you put it in the button handler? See, you put that in that's the form load event. So that event happens when the form opens up. So close it, stop your program. So yeah, so get rid of that. Get rid of that. Or just cut it. Okay. Now go back to your design view. Now double click on the button. I think you double clicked on the form. See? Button, one click. Form load. So we change the text, right? How do we change the text? Then the properties appear on the right hand side.
I thought if I change the text, it will change this one.
No. This win panel changes depending on what you have selected. Okay.
Where did we get this from?
Sorry?
Isn't in our Dropbox?
What's that?
This one.
No, nothing. The notes for today? Yeah, they're under course content. But we haven't really started on anything from the notes yet.
No, we're talking about this GUI you made.
I'm making it right now. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this button as sort of our start, our way of starting the code that we're going to be working with today. Okay. So what are we going to be looking at today? So we're going to start getting into the meat of programming. Okay. So there are three main aspects of programming, I think. And you could argue maybe there's a couple of more, but I think these are the big ones. Okay? And so they are as follows. So we have variables, okay? We have ifs, and we have loops. That's it. That's all there is really to programming. Okay? And you guys have already started working with variables, right? What kind of variables did we work with last week? Yeah, strings, integers, doubles. We've even started to look at objects a little bit. So remember, objects are just fancy variables, variables that are really complex, that have a lot of things associated with them, right? So this is what we're going to learn today. We're going to learn ifs, okay? Conditional statements. So probably a better term would be conditional statements, right? Ifs is sort of juvenile, I suppose, but it gets the point across. So what a conditional statement is so now we're going to start writing code that only executes given certain conditions. So now our program can be a little bit intelligent. Now it can do things depending on the situation, right? So far we've just been writing code that sort of executes the same way every time you run it. So now we're going to look at how to make decisions, how to make your computer appear intelligent. Okay? So we're going to learn about the if statement. We're going to learn about the if-else statement. We're going to learn about conditional operators, and that might be it. Okay? So let's think. Let's write some pseudocode. Okay, so pseudocode is sort of like fake code that doesn't really run, but it's generally in the form that your real code is going to be. Okay, so let's write a pseudocode program for getting dressed in the morning. Right? So we're going to use really high-level English language that you could. So if let's say there was a brand new human being, but they were born a full adult and they could speak fully, but they didn't know anything. Like they didn't know how to get dressed in the morning. They didn't know what type of clothes to put on. So this would be a little instruction sheet you could give them, an algorithm that would help them make decisions. Okay, so. Let's say, so we got to think, if it's raining outside, then they're going to have to wear certain clothes, right? If it's really, really hot outside, they're going to have to wear certain clothes. If it's cold outside, they're going to have to wear certain clothes, right? So let's think about that. Let's write some cases using if statements. So we're going to say things like, if the weather is cold, then wear jacket, right? So let's think of let's come up with a whole bunch of those if-then statements that would fully prepare a person to get dressed in the morning, to go outside. Let's say in Toronto, right, where the weather could be pretty much anything, right? So what would be the first if statement we could think of? It was the one I just came up with, right? So if weather is cold, then wear a jacket. Okay? So, what else? What else should we do?
It's raining, bro.
Yeah, if weather is rainy, then bring umbrella. Or rain jacket. Okay, so we're also going to look at Boolean operators. Okay, so we could actually do either one of these. Okay, what else? What else do we have? What's that?
If it's hot, then wear less clothes.
Okay, if weather is hot, then wear shorts. Okay, what else?
If it's snowy, wear snow boots.
Okay, that's a good one. If weather is snowy, then wear boots. Okay. What else? Yeah, if weather is sunny, wear sunglasses. Is sunglasses one word? Okay? Is this starting to make sense now? So, you know what? Our C# code is not going to look much different than this, right? Except instead of high-level statements like wear a jacket, we're going to be doing things like printing messages, assigning variables, things like this. Okay? So this is essentially a program. We've created an algorithm using some if statements to help someone get dressed in the morning. Okay? So that's what we're going to do in C# today. Okay? So for example, let's say you have a program that needs authentication. Right? You need to sign in. You need to log in with your username and password. What would be, let's come up with the algorithm for that. Let's come up with the pseudocode that would work for a authentication system. What would we have to say? Okay, but we have to put it in the if then action form. So it's going to be if then and then something.
If you're a user,
If what?
if you're a user, in the user ID.
Okay, so they enter it, then we do this. What would be the algorithm to make sure that that user is authenticated?
Correct or not?
Okay, how would say that in a little more general form? So you might say something like, in this case, we might have to nest some ifs. So we might say, if username exists in database, then what we would say is check. How can I write this like this? If then. So then what we would say, if username exists in database, then we're going to have another if statement that says if password matches database password, then authenticate. Right? So here, if the username doesn't exist, then it's going to skip this. It's not going to do this, right? Because why would you check for if the password matches if you don't even have any record of them? So if the username does exist in the database, then we're going to do one more check. We're going to check if the password that they gave us matches the database password. And if that's true also, then we allow them in. Okay? So we could use a nested if statement to do that. And we're going to look at nested if statements too in today. Okay? So the general form, let's go back to our C# code. Okay. So let's double click on our button again and go to make sure that we're in the button click handler. Okay. So what we can do now is we'll stop the code as running. So what we're going to do is back to Visual Studio. Sometime we'll get here. At some point. Okay, back again. So, hopefully we don't crash. So let's make a variable. We'll call it int, and we'll call it the gatekeeper. Okay, and we'll make this 0. Okay. So again, an if statement has an if, and then 2 brackets, and then 2 braces. Okay. So inside the brackets again, we put a Boolean statement. So we could just put this in. We could put true. See, true is a key word, but inside these brackets, we need a Boolean statement. So we could say if gatekeeper equals 5, then what we're going to do, we're going to say label1.text equals, what should we put it in? We'll say Johnny 5. Okay. Let's do another one. So if gatekeeper equals what's the number? Let's say 2. We'll say label1.text equals what's a phrase with the word 2 in it? 2 for the money. Oops, how come this is underlined? Why is this underlined? Because I spelt it wrong. I put gamekeeper. Okay? So, if I set this to be 5, and I run the program, what will the text change to when I click go? What's that? It won't? Why?
Oh, you change it to 5.
Yeah.
It will change the
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So 1 equals means assignment. So I'm assigning this value to this variable. Right? So I'm sticking this, I'm taking this, I'm sticking it in there. When I use 2 equal signs, I'm comparing them. So I'm saying, is gatekeeper equal to 5? But 5 doesn't go in gatekeeper. We're just comparing the difference. Okay? So you have to use 2 equal signs when you compare. Okay, so now if I change this to be 2, and I run it, what will the label change to be now? 2 for the money. Okay? Okay, good. Now, what if I did this? What if I said, if gatekeeper is greater than 2, and I made it 6, what will come up now? Sorry? Same thing? Yeah, because gatekeeper is going to equal 6, and 6 is greater than 2. So it's going to go in here. Right. Let's try it. Okay. Okay, now, let's try this. Let's say, okay, let's make another variable. We'll make another int, and we'll call this gatekeeper2, and we'll make that equal to 1, let's say. Okay, so now in this if statement, I'm going to say if gatekeeper is greater than 2 and gatekeeper 2 equals to 1, then 2 for the money, 1 for the show. So what's going to happen now? So I have an and here. Okay, so if gatekeeper 1, or if gatekeeper equals 6 and gatekeeper 2 equals 1, so this first part here, is gatekeeper greater than 2? Is that true or false? True. And is gatekeeper 2 equals to 1? True. Also true. Is true and true true? Yes. So then this statement is going to run. Okay? There we go. And there's the rest of our message. Okay. So let's take in some input now. Let's go back to our form designer and let's put in a text box. So we'll drag in a text box and let's put in a label, and we'll rename the label, or we'll put inside the label, we'll say input, and we'll put this over by our text input, and then we'll center this like so. Okay? So what's the name of our text box? How do we find out that? Yeah, we click on it. It's text box 1 is the name. Okay? So what we want to do now is we'll go back to our form, and so instead of getting the gatekeeper just hard coding the number in, what we're going to do is we're going to get it from the text box. Okay? So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that there's something in the text box, right? Because what if I well, there's no reason to really do that right now, but we want to do that. Let's just say we want to do that. So what we could do is we could we'll have an if statement. So we'll say if, and we'll put our 2 brackets and then our 2 braces. Okay? And inside, so what we want to do is we if there's nothing in the text box, we don't want to put anything in the label. Okay? So how might we do that? If just thinking in terms of words, how might we check to see if there was nothing in the text box? Because that's a little bit tricky, maybe. So the way we do it is, so we're going to access our text box 1. Okay? And then we can figure out, we want to find, I wonder if there's an actual value called length. No. So what we'll do is we will access the text property. Okay? And then inside the text property is also another object, which has more objects inside. Okay? And what we want to access is we want to find out what the length is. So that, see right there, it says gets the number of characters in the current string object. Okay? So that's going to tell us how many characters make up the text that's in the text box. Okay? Text box dot text dot length. Okay? So if I want to, what would the length be if there was no text? 0. So we could say something like this. So how could I form an if statement that's only going to, so I want the code in here to only run if there's something in the text box. How might we do that? I heard a couple of suggestions. Let's hear them. Not equal to 0. Okay. So yeah, there's a couple of ways to do it. We could say not equal to 0. We could say greater than 0. Yeah, there's a lot of ways. So this is a good way. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut all of this and we're going to paste it inside our if statement. So now let's debug our program now, right? So we're going to put a breakpoint at this if statement by clicking on this gray area, right? So we're going to run our program, and oh, there was build errors. Oh, I deleted this. So let's just get rid of this for now. Okay, so I'm not putting anything in here. I'm going to click Go, and you can see it's stopped here. So if we hover over length, you can see that it equals 0, right? The text is equal to nothing, and the text box, it's equal to a whole bunch of properties. Okay, so if I press F10, okay, so we're back to our debugging screen. So now I'm going to press step over. So see how it skipped this whole block of code, right? Because this is false. And so anything inside these braces is not run. Okay? And all that code is skipped over. Okay? So let's continue. So now let's put something in the text box. Now what's going to happen? Is it going to change? Not really, because we actually still have this here. But we'll make this 5. Oops. Let's try it again. So we'll make this 5. Okay, so now gatekeeper equals 5. And now we'll press start. And so if we click go, nothing will happen. And as soon as we put something in the box, now we get some action. Okay? Okay. So now let's do this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set the value of gatekeeper. We're going to say gatekeeper equals, so now that we know that it actually has some length, we're going to say gatekeeper equals textbox1 dot text. Okay? And what we have to do is we're going to have to convert it from a string to an int. So remember, we use the class convert, and then we say to int 32. And we put that in brackets like this. Okay? So now it's going to take whatever's in the text box and it's going to try and convert it to an integer. Okay, let's try it. So now if we go back here, and now if we enter 4, nope, nothing. 3, nope. 2, nope. 5, there we go. Okay? So see how now our program is starting to do different things depending on what the user does. Okay? Yeah.
Somehow my knowledge.
Okay, let's have a look.
Oh, lowercase. Oh. Alright, so what's a good, it's a good idea to use the helpers. You go like this, and then text you the answer, and then what's the name of the chart for you, right? What gotta click go.
Oh, I pressed it.
Yep. Not working?
Oh. So click on the double click on. So you have an if, you have the start of an if statement, but you don't have your brackets. And so I think you want to put it in here. You want to put this in.
Yep.
Sorry? Yeah, integer, yeah. Oh, because, well,
Normally they would consider a string, and at first they default to a string.
well, no, but in the text from the text box, that's a string. So, because you can enter anything in the text box. And if you don't enter any number, your program's going to throw an error. Because you can't, like, what would be, how would you convert f into an integer? Right? It doesn't work.
So if you directly like write and close with it, why do you need to convert it?
What's that?
Why do you need to convert it?
Because the text in the text box is a string. It's of type string. Right? So it's like anything. It could be, see, try entering in something that's not a number, and your program's going to throw
What's called a runtime error. Or it should. Yeah. See? So it said format exception was unhandled. Input string was not in the correct format because I tried to convert the letter A into an integer, but that doesn't make sense. Okay?
I think in the past, I learned a way how to like exception handle that, right?
Yeah, there's a couple ways to do that. You can use exception handling, but I'm not going to introduce that today. Or you could you could check with an if statement as well.
Input validation exception.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, let's try another version. Let's make a program that that will operate differently depending on the time of day. Okay? So let's get rid of this code. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a new object. Okay? We're going to use a special class called dateTime. That's a special variable type. Okay? And it's just like an integer. Right? But it has more, it's related to the date. Okay, it has more information than just a single number. It's going to have lots of information. Okay? So, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new, so we'll call it date. That's the name of our variable. And then we have to assign a value using the new keyword. Okay? And so we're going to give it an instance of dateTime class. Okay? So now we can, if we type date, we can have a look at all of the properties available to us. Properties and methods. Right? So let's look at day of week. Okay. So what we want to do is we're going to set the label text, label1.text. We're going to set that to equal the day of the week. Actually, we have to go toString. So we'll have to say day of the week dot toString. So that's going to convert it to a string. Yes, with brackets. Okay, let's see what it prints out. Monday. Oh wait, it's not Monday. Why did it do that? I guess we have to oh, okay, this doesn't work like I thought it did. So what we have to do is give it the date. So in these brackets, we're going to pass it a few parameters. So we're going to pass it the year, we're going to pass it the month, and we're going to pass it the day. Okay. So now it should say, tell us the day of the week, which is Thursday. It's the 26th. There we go. Okay? So now let's do this. Let's say, so we could do an if. So let's say, let's have a message. So we want our message to be human friendly, right? So we'll say something like if. So we'll copy this here. Okay? So if the day of the week equals, let's say Monday. We'll say somebody has a case of the Mondays. Oops. So that's our string, and we're going to set the label text to equal that. Okay? So if I run it like that, is that anything going to happen? No, why?
It's not Monday.
Yeah, it's going to be equal to Thursday. So let's say, what if we set it to be the 23rd? Okay, let's run it. Oh, somebody has a case of the Mondays. Okay? And now let's change it back to the 26th. And we'll create a new if statement. And we'll just copy this whole line. And we'll change this to Thursday. And I don't know, what do people say on Thursday? Label 1 text. No, that's Tuesday.
Oh,
Isn't
no,
it pub night on Thursday?
No, that's what I heard in the commercial.
No, movie night is Tuesday night.
For Mondays, definitely it's the worst day of the week. That's why I heard our commercials on the internet.
Yeah. Okay.
Day of the week.
Okay, now here's another thing I'm going to show you. There's another keyword that we can use when we use conditionals, and that's the keyword else. Right? So we can put the word else here. Okay? So that changes our what happens slightly. Okay? So if we have just a bunch of if conditions, right? So let's say we have this. Let's copy this some more. I'm going to copy this. So we're going to have one for Tuesday, one for Wednesday, one for Thursday. Okay? So Tuesday will be, that's movie night.
Middle of the week is Wednesday.
Wednesday, that's hump day. Hump day, sad face. Okay? So if we have if, okay, what that means is when the program runs, it's going to check all of these conditions. It's going to check this condition, it's going to check this condition, it's going to check this condition. Okay? But if we put in the else if keyword, so our first if, it's just an if, and then after that we have else ifs. Okay? What that means is as soon as this becomes a block now. So as soon as one of these conditions becomes true, it stops checking the rest of them. Okay? So let's debug. Let's step through it to see how that works. So let's get rid of this else. We'll get rid of these else's. Okay, and let's put a debug here. So we'll switch it back to the 23rd. So that's Monday, right? And let's run it. Let's run it. So we press the button, and so now it's going to check to see if it's Monday, and so it is going to be equal to Monday. Okay, so now we're going to step through. Okay, so the first time it's going to see it goes in that block, and it's going to change the text now. So it goes in, but now it's going to check the rest of the days as well. But why would you do that? That seems like a waste. If it's Monday, it's not going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, right? So why check them all? So what we can do, we can make our code a little more efficient. We can add in these else statements. So now what happens? Now let's debug it and see what happens. Okay, so we're going to hit go, and now we're going to run it. So we're going to step over. It goes into this block, but now what you'll see is that, boom, it just jumps over. Right? It skips all the other ones because they were else statements. Okay? So that's the difference between if statements and if else statements. Okay? The other thing we could do is we could also have just a final else. Right? So that's sort of the catch-all condition. So let's assume that'll be Friday night. Friday night party. Woo! Right? So what we'll do is let's set this to be Friday will be the 27th. So we'll set that to be the 27th. So let's see how it works now. Okay? So we're going to stop it and run it again. Okay, we're going to click the button, and so now so what's the day of the week equal to? Friday. So it's not Monday. Okay, so let's step through it. So it didn't stop at Monday, it didn't stop at Tuesday, it didn't stop at Wednesday, it didn't stop at Thursday. So now it wasn't any of these conditions, so it's just going to go into our else condition. Okay, so it goes into there, runs that line, and now our message has changed. Okay? Is that making sense to you guys? Okay, let's look at another structure for making decisions. Okay? So one structure is the if-else statement. Okay? Another way to do it is to use cases. So let's delete this code. Okay? And switches. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to create an integer called we'll call it what will we call it? We'll call it value, and we'll set it to be 0 for now. Okay? And so now what we're going to do, we're going to set up this thing called a switch statement. Okay? So a switch statement sort of looks like an if statement in that we're going to have 2 brackets here. And so what we're going to do, we're going to switch on this this variable here. Okay? So then what we do is we can set up cases that will determine what happens based on this value. So what we do, we'll set up, let's say the value is going to be 1, case 1. Okay? So then what we want to do, for case 1, we're going to take label 1 and the text, and we're going to set it to I'm in case 1. Okay? So for case 2, I need to break it. And then I need one more statement, which is break. Okay? And then for case 2, I'm going to put in the label 1 text. I'm in case 2. and we'll put a break. So we can put any number of cases that we want. Okay? Let's do one more. Yep. So let's say if the value of value is 1, then it'll do this one. If this is 2, it's going to do this one. So let's try it. Okay. So now let's go back. Let's change this to 1. Okay. Let's run it. So now it's going to do this. Right? Okay. And then we can have a final case, which is we can have the default case, which is kind of like the else. Okay? And then we'll say label1 dot text equals default case. Okay? And so let's set this value to be 5. Okay? Oh, we need to break. You have to. It won't let you not. So the break just skips all the other checks. So let's try it. Exactly. Yep. So you basically use cases when you have a variable that has specific values, right? And so traditionally, let's say if you had like in this. So let's say if I was gonna assign you to classes depending on your year, student year, right? So we would use a switch case in that case because each student year is an integer, right? They're either in first year, second year, third year, fourth year. Well, usually we use if statements for things that we might have a range of values, right? So let's say what's a good example there? So let's say, oh, okay, let's do this. So this is a good example of using a switch. So when we have certain values, but let's say we had an integer variable called temperature, okay, and let's make that 20. So this is 20 degrees Celsius. So we could say something like, now let's look at combining if statements. So we'll say if temp is greater than negative 100 and temp is less than negative negative 50, then we're going to print to the label, we're going to say that's really cold. Okay? So this is our first range, and we'll include the equal signs as well. Okay? So now let's do another. Let's have an else if. And we'll say if temp is greater than negative 50 and temp is less than 0, say, and we'll copy this. That's somewhat cold. Okay. And then we'll say another else if. If temp is, so, oh, we want to include equals here on our, because otherwise, what if I don't include equals there and I say this, temp greater than 0. So what case am I missing here now?
A 0?
Yeah, when it is actually 0. So that's why I'm going to put equals there. Okay? So now I'm going to say if temp is greater than 0 and and temp is less than 20, then label 1 dot text. That's a little warm. Okay. And then also else if temp, oh, and we're going to include equals here again. If temp is greater than 20 and temp is less than 40, then that's really hot. Okay? So if I have it set as 20, what will print out? I have it set to 20. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Let's change it. What if I change it to minus 20? What will it do now? Yeah, that'll go in here, right? That's somewhat cold. Okay? So does everyone see how with the switch statements we used actual values, specific values, whereas the if statements you can do specific values with the if statement, but it's better equipped to handle things like these ranges. Okay? Okay, so let's make a little program. Okay, let's go back here. Let's okay, so let's put this label up here. Let's change this to we'll call it a discount calculator. Okay, and I'm gonna delete this text box and this label here. Okay. And what I want to do is we're going to try a new element. We're going to try a combo box, okay, which is essentially a drop-down menu. Okay. So what we want to do is add a few items to this. Okay. So actually, we'll add another combo box. We'll drop that in. So we'll have two combo boxes, and let's add in a label and another label. So, so let's say this is for the movie. So we'll say movie. Whoops. Let's get rid of that. Don't do that. We're going to click here once. Oops. Get rid of this. So we'll click here once. Let's change this to movie discount calculator. And we will, let's make our form a little bigger. Okay. So this one, let's call this one, we'll change the label text, we'll change this to age. And this one, we'll change it to, let's say, night. Yep. Okay.
What happened? Oh, well, we're starting something new. Just get rid of all that. Oh, because you're missing. Something new. Something new. Yeah. Okay.
So does everyone have something that looks like this? Let's make the labels a little bigger. We'll change the font size. We'll make that 20. And same with this one. Okay? So now what we let's put in a colon in there as well. Okay. So now what we want to do is we're going to add a few things to this drop down, this combo box. Okay? So what we can do is we can click on this little arrow and then we can click on edit items. So now we're going to add some items. Okay? So let's pick a couple of age ranges. So we have baby, we have child, we have teen, we have adult, and we have senior citizen. Right? So let's OK. So let's run that and let's see what our combo box looks like now. So now if we click here, look at that. Now we can pick from these options. Okay? We can pick teen if we want. Okay? Does everyone have that so far? Who doesn't have that?
Can you show again?
How to put in the items? Yeah. So you click on the combo box, and then you click on this arrow here, and then you click edit items. So for the night, we'll just list the nights. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay? And then I click OK. So now the items are in there. And I'm also going to add just a label that will be our result. So let's make this a little bigger. What's that?
Yeah. Yeah, edit. Oh, click. It's because it's a text box. You need a combo box. Yep. Okay. Does everybody have that?
What are the things do we need to add? Age?
So in age, I added baby, child, teen, adult, senior. Okay, so everyone has that? So now what we're going to do is let's click on Go again, and we'll get rid of our temperature code here. Okay, let's get rid of that. So how do we first we need to find out the value, because what we want to do is we want to print out a different message here depending on the combination of age and night, right? So let's figure out what's the name of our combo box up here. It's combo box 1. Okay? So let's figure out how we can use combo box 1. So we'll type in combo box 1, Okay, and let's see what properties are available to us. So we'll type dot, and I think what we want to use is there's going to be something called selected item, if I remember correctly. So we'll scroll down, and yeah, see here, selected text. Okay, gets or sets the text that is selected in the editable portion of the combo box. Okay, or actually, I think we might want selected item. I think we might have to experiment, but let's start with selected item. Okay, and then we'll convert that to a string. Okay, so then just let's see what that'll show us, so we know how to write our if statements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a message box. Remember that from last week, and I'm going to say show, and so I'm going to show what the selected item is in our combo box, just so I can see what's happening. Right? So I'm using a message box. Remember that's sort of like our console print line. Okay, let's run it.
We created a message box already.
What do you mean? No, a message box, you don't have to create it. You just call the method. So now if I click this and I click go, see now it tells me child. It knows, it's telling me what I picked. Okay, so we just did that just to make sure that we know how to write our if statements. Okay? So now let's write our little program here. So we'll get rid of our message box. We don't need that anymore. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to say if combo box selected item to string equals baby, right? Then we're going to say, what was the label called? The label here is called label 4. So we're going to say label 4 dot text equals babies are free. Okay, although you shouldn't take your baby to the movie. Someone did that one time when I was at the movies. I got really pissed because the thing was crying the whole. Okay, so now let's click here. Let's click our start and see what happens. So let's click child and we'll click go, and nothing's going to happen. Now if we click baby and we click go, it's going to say babies are free. Okay? Okay. So now let's do some more conditions. So let's say this. So we'll say else if, because if they're a baby, they're automatically free, right? So we'll say else if combo box 1 dot selected item dot toString equals child. Okay. And so you don't automatically get a discount if you're a child. You only get a discount if it's Tuesday night. Okay? So if combo box selected item to string equals child and combo box 2 dot selected item dot toString equals Tuesday, then we'll change the label to label 4 dot text equals, and then we'll say Tuesday night child discount 50%. So see now, if I go here, so if I click age and I select baby, and I click go, is that going to change the value? Yes, right? It's going to change babies are free. So if I change to child and I click go, what's it going to say? Nothing yet, right? Oops. Oh, yeah, it didn't like that because there was no selected item. So here's what we have to do. So what we have to do is we have to say, if we're going to check both combo boxes, we have to do another if statement. We have to say, so if we're going to check combo box 1, we're going to say if combo box 1 dot let's see here. I wonder if we change the selected value. Gets or sets. No, what we should do is size. Gets or set. No. Selected items. Selection length. We could probably use that. Okay, so if selection length is greater than 0, then we will actually check it. Okay? So I think selection in the editable portion, yeah, selected. Let's try it. Let's stop. We'll stop here. Okay, so let's we'll hit go, and the selection length should be 0, so that's not. So what we're going to do, and then here we're going to have another. Okay, let's try it again. Let's stop this, and actually I'm going to keep my breakpoint here. We're going to run it. So let's pick this and hit go, and now the selection length, oh no, it's not bigger. Okay, so selection length isn't going to work. So we have to figure out another parameter to use. Oh, we could just say if selected item not equal to null, I believe. So that we're just checking that there is something picked. So let's try this again. So if we pick this, or let's pick, yeah, we'll pick baby, and so that should go in now. Okay, good. So it's not null. So let's try it again just to make sure that the null works still. So is this going to skip over now? Yes, it does. Okay, excellent. So now we're checking to make sure that something is actually selected. So let's also do that for both, when we're going to check both conditions. So we want to make sure that combo box 1 selected item is not null. Right? Null means no value. No value has been put in. Okay? So we're also going to say and combo box 2 selected item is not null. Okay? So if both aren't null, then we're going to check to see. Oh, I need another closing bracket. Okay? Now we're going to check to see what the two values are. Okay? So let's try it again. Let's go back to our program. So if we click go, now we're not going to be crashing anymore, right? So let's set the age to be child, and we'll check go. So no result yet. So now let's change it to child and Tuesday, and click go. And now it says child Tuesday night child discount. Okay, at 50%. And we could do another one. Let's do So in here, we've checked that both are activated. So we could say if combo box 1 dot selected item dot toString equals senior. Okay. And combo box 2 dot selected item dot toString equals Tuesday. Then we'll say, what are we going to give the seniors? Label for text equals Tuesday night seniors discount. Let's say 80% discount. Big discount. Okay. So now when we run it, oops, there's errors. Where do I have errors? Oops, I didn't finish off my bracket there. Okay. So now if I pick senior and Monday, nothing's going to show. But if I change it to Tuesday, now we have our senior discount, 80%. Okay? So does everyone have that? No? Okay, why? What's up? Okay, well, okay, but hang on. So just look at, it's the same thing. You're pretty much caught up. So, but you have an extra bracket. So, and then you have and you need 2 equals. Compare the 2 equals. Okay, all right. So is that in your form, in your designer? Okay. So try it. So run it. So see you have, so if it's, so set it to B, and click go. Oh, that's because, oh, see, I added a few more things. See what I did here is I added this check here. So first I check to see if the combo box is not null. Right? So first I check to make sure they've actually picked something. Right? Then once we've made sure they've actually picked it, so it's not null, then we're going to check to see what the content is. Right? So go in your case here. What's that? Oh, yeah. So then you have to put your brackets around all of this. Okay. So now you're not going to run any of this code until you check to see if one of them's been selected. Okay. So now if you go here, now it's not going to crash. And if you pick baby, now it's going to actually just okay, let's debug. So let's debug here. I'm going to put the breakpoint, and then I'm going to go here and go. Oh, see, you have to remember about your label. See, this combo box is called combo box 2. Right? This combo box is called combo box 2. So you have to make sure that this should be within what's that? Well, here, see up here, I'm just checking if the first one is null, because I'm only checking one, the first one. But here, I'm checking if combo box 1 and combo box 2
are not null. Because then I'm going to check the values of both, right? Then I check the values of combo box 1 and combo box 2. Right? Sorry? Well, copy that. So this part here is my top combo box, and this one checks both combo boxes. Okay. Anyone else have any? Yeah. Sorry. Why did I put this if in here? Oh, it didn't really matter in this case. I could have. Else? So then what will happen is if this one is true, it won't check this one. But in this case, it just checks it anyway. So really, I mean, either way, the algorithm would have worked the same way. Yep. Okay, that's fine.
If I want to not push the button,
So then you have to, so here, yeah, see you've put it in the combo box selected index change. So whenever you change the combo box, that code's going to run. So what you want to do is you want to put it into the button click event. So you could just copy this page, copy this code, and put it up in here. Yeah.
and also is
Because nothing's in the button thing yet, though.
but it didn't show the result yet.
Because, well, what you did was here, so you put it in the combo 1 selected index change. So if you go like this,
Okay.
if you go the other way, now it does it. But because if you do it this way first, right, let's say this is like this, then you change this. Well, it's babies are always free, but let's say we change this. So it checked, but it's not on Tuesday. But if we change this to Tuesday, and now we change this to child, now it checks. But you could also, you could put in an event handler for the second combo box as well, if you wanted to. Yeah.
Two questions. I can't see what is this combo box. What is this here?
You have 2 combo boxes on your form. So this is combo box 1, and this is combo box 2. And so it has a property, combo boxes has a property called selected item. So whenever you pick an item, so what was your question? So what you were just asking what probably is this? Okay. Oh, no, that's right though. Yeah, it's the exact. Oh no, wait. So what I did. Sorry. What's that? Okay, hang on.
Yeah, pretty much like the question was just what's class there.
Okay.
What that error was. Fix it.
wrong? Yeah. Okay. Because there's an error. Gotta fix the error.
So there was no error. When I started writing this, that's when the error came up, right?
Okay. Well, finish it off so that it's correct. Anyone else having, so I have to go in a minute, 1 minute. Actually, I have to go now, but I'll be back at 12:30, and we'll do our lab. Okay, so if you have any more questions.
Lab 2?
Lab 2.
Okay.